the question is, okay, YouTube also says we are live.
Okay.
So we should be live on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I refuse to say X. I just said it, X.
Mm.
Uh, and on YouTube.
And YouTube. Yeah. So compared to the first talk we had, remember that one, Rick?
Yeah.
The black tapes were who luckily or accidentally got infected by a global online virus because we were, I
Yeah.
guess, talking, bad mouthing everybody and their uncle, and really putting on the tinfoil hats. That was quite an experience.
Yeah. We were mostly bad mouthing Google, I think. But
We would never.
no,
Uh,
we would
so-
never. We would never. Um, yeah. So I think so. We had one recording indeed that sadly died on us. Like let's
Mm,
keep it at technical difficulties, and then
yeah, yeah, per se.
and then we definitely had a fun, interesting episode for life after GDPR, and we've had many fun talks on many events.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do my best to introduce you, although I don't think you need an
Okay.
introduction because I think everybody who's connected to me has probably seen you somewhere. But I think you are the Danish godfather of digital analytics. I think that's the best way to describe you. You are basically at every conference there is about anything digital analytics, at least in Europe, right?
Uh,
I think.
I wish, right? But yeah. So the ambition is there, but clearly, so it's the benefit of being an opinionated fool. Every time there's a box to stand on, it's time to yell from the rooftops. So yes, I try
Well,
to get out there. Absolutely.
yeah, but also to be fair, you have definitely perfected your craft of speaking because also like so I think when I met you, you were already very good at speaking. But now, because I've seen you speak at different events, and I've also seen you gave the same talk at different events, I also noticed that
Hmm.
you're actually trying to do better at talking, not just sharing the knowledge, but also perfecting the craft of talking. Let's say so. That's you definitely put an
Hmm.
effort in. Let's say
Yeah,
it's not.
Ivan. So one of I think the best example is in my younger days, right? When I did measure camp talks, I would try to do new talks at every measure camp, but that was kind of like a fool's errand because it was never the same people there. So what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to take the same presentation from uh, like a rough alpha and then turn it into maximum performer at the end of the year. So having this flow in relations to learning and optimizing and listening to what people say and
Yeah,
and and then taking it from there.
yeah, yeah. And I think you're also very
So
good at you're good at taking feedback during like the after talk rounds with the drinks. That's where
mm,
you always have a crowd of people, like you're always taking feedback on your talk, so it for some reason it always you know it always makes people come out and talk to you. Like you always hit some points where people are like, yeah, I experienced that in my organization as well, and then they start a conversation with you, which I think you then incorporate in your next talk, like to make it better.
yeah, well, and I think so. A lot of presentation is about the audience. It's for the audience. It's not who presents it. Saying
Yeah,
it's easy to say when you're out presenting it, but still, I feel that it's for the relevance of the audience. That is, it's the big thing, right?
yeah.
But you do a lot of presentations yourself as well, or you at least did until you decided to go into the bat cave and stay there with wife and kids. And
Yeah. Last year was a lot of changing diapers, not so much presentations, but also a very
yeah,
rewarding experience, I must say. Not necessarily the changing
mm,
diapers part,
yeah.
but but
Mm.
no,
Well,
yeah, but I
but I know
feel
with the kids,
yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, with the kids. So statistically, I have between 2 and 4 kids, right? That's kind of what I normally say because Uh, my wife has two kids from a prior relationship, and then we have two kids together. So sometimes we have four kids, and sometimes we only have two, depending on if they're together with the dad. So it's a nice conversation saying from stage that I have between 2 and 4 kids. Uh,
Yeah, it
uh,
piques interest.
so there,
How does that work?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So especially to a data crowd, it's like what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think on the talking point. So I've only at this this year technically this year Super Week, because Super Week is obviously in January, so we've already had this year Super Week. But this year I did my first talk where I took it a bit more serious than I normally do. Like, so what I
Mhm.
normally did is I just take a technical concept and then have a little bit of stuff around it and I just present it. And like you said, I used to basically make one presentation for one occasion and never do it again,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
also has its benefits, I guess, but it's obviously less polished from a presentation point of view. But this year
yeah,
when I presented at Super Week, I was like, well, I want to make that count. Like, Super Week special to me, right? I think it's like, I felt honored to be among the Super Week
mhm.
crowd, let's say, who presents there. And I wanted to
Oh
I
yeah,
wanted it to
because
be differentiated, like not
yeah,
like there are so many people there who could explain a technical topic better than me, I would argue, and who are even more in depth than me on those technical topics. And I felt like, okay, I want to lead into something that would make my talk unique. So I tried to do it your way, right? Like, I tried to take the storytelling approach to it, and I really enjoyed doing it. But I also recognized it it takes a lot of effort to make something look simple, right? To make it look fluent.
yeah,
So that was a big
yeah.
learning point for me.
But I also think you went in and you did a dry run on my kids from IHM, right? So you
100%.
beta
Yeah.
tested the presentation on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
and compared to that presentation you made for them, the presentation you actually made afterwards was really different. There was a
Yeah.
lot of changes and
Yeah.
yeah. So having this learning, getting because when you do a presentation the first time, you very often walk away with a lot of saying, okay, that didn't work, and that I should have done differently, and that could have been better if you
100%.
if you just don't shower in the accolades and praise and the free drinks
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
afterwards.
and I think um the risk for us practitioners, let's say us nerds, is that when we make the presentation and we are in our head, it all makes sense. And then when you say it out loud, you're already starting to doubt a little bit, like, will these people understand it? And then when you see people actually
Yeah,
listening to it, you're like, oh, this didn't land at all, right? I was going
yeah,
way too
yeah.
nerdy on this, or right? And then you need to, yeah, you need to level that out somehow.
Yeah. So it also hurts that you have to when sometimes you have to say that was a joke, people. It's like when you just say something trying to be funny, and it's like the kind of the conference of stone faces all meeting, sitting there staring at you blankly, and you're just
Yeah,
like, guys, come on, that was supposed to be funny. Yeah.
yeah. No,
But we
100%.
also promised yeah. So we promised people some conspiracies, Rick. So what is your
Yeah.
favorite thing that is not being talked about right now? You've
Well,
or it could be talked about because I have some obvious ones and I have some that I think well interesting. But it's well let's play along. Let's play guess my conspiracy.
well, I think for me, what is really top of mind is the whole Google antitrust, the whole Google postponing third-party cookie deprecation, and I I am strongly I'm really convinced actually that Google played their hand very strategically and basically played along, acting as if they playing along with the UK CMA, the whatever market authority, and then push towards this outcome of, yeah, no, sorry, like we can't deprecate the cookies again, right? Like
Mm.
it feels like a very strategic game that is being played, um, which I feel in the end will benefit Google or benefit large big tech, right? Um,
Mm.
either way, either way, either way it falls, right? Whether they phase out third party cookies or they keep them, right? Either way, they will come out on top of this.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because one of the things that I have seen that I'm trying to focus on now, and I'm trying to do master classes on Google Analytics campaign tracking, so it's been on my radar for a long time. But one of the functionalities that the Google has launched now and promised more of in the fall is this Google market what's budgeting tool.
Google
You heard
Black
of it?
Box,
You
Google
follow
Black
it in
Box
this
budgeting tool,
what?
the Google Black Box
Yeah,
budgeting
yeah,
tool.
exactly. So you have, but yeah, but there are some elements in it that are really interesting in the sense that it goes in and it tries to give you the stuff that you've been really needing as a marketeer for a long time. So it goes in and gives you saying, we try to do attribution across things. We try to do the mix modeling. We try to give you back targeting so you can go in and predict what's going to happen. So all this is basically on the roadmap.
Yeah.
But all these functionalities is also to a large degree tied to cookies, I would guess. So
Yeah.
it's really difficult to do some serious attribution if you don't have the transparency about where the users are coming from. So you have this parallel track in relations to the cookie thing, and then you have this super sexy offering.
Yeah.
So by going in and this is just conjecture and guessing, right? But it's by having these two tracks in parallel, everybody's saying, okay, should we develop something that builds on cookies? And it's like, well, the board says hell no because Google promised to remove it. And then Google goes in and builds something, and it might not be built around cookies, but it certainly helps, right? So so you get this imbalance.
I think that's actually a good point because I started out saying I think Google is playing a very strategic game. Like there's obviously multiple levels to Google, right? It's Google's probably larger than the city I live in with the amount of people that work at Google. So there's also let me actually share my screen because that's what we can do in this live stream. We are super technical. So Google also launched this, right? Or I don't know if they act like it's in early access, right? But basically, their open source marketing mix modeling called Meridian, right? Which is their
yeah.
So they are very much also betting on multiple multiple versions of the future, let's say. And yeah, that's it's actually a good point. Like they are maybe they also don't know, right? Maybe they are definitely. I think they are definitely trying to steer for certain outcomes, right, on a strategic level, and probably you could argue that they should, right, because that's in their shareholder value to steer towards certain outcomes. But they also don't know, so they're betting on multiple horses and building a solution for every potential outcome.
Yeah, but if it was you, and I guess it's just business sense going in and saying, okay, we have a plan A, but we also have a very strong plan B. So because if plan A fails, then we cannot sit there and say, okay, what do we do now, guys? Right? So
and
so if we can go in and monetizing both plan A and plan B, yeah, exactly.
They have the resources
so
that's
for
plan
super
C and D
right?
as well, right? To invest in plan A, B, C, and D and do it properly with real talent. So they probably should.
And it kind of goes into saying that all these things that are happening now with Google Analytics, right? The first driver for most people is still the BigQuery integration. So if you look on the first 18 average, this is how you set up Google Analytics 4. Well, half of them will contain this is the how to activate, or 2/3 of them will have this is how you activate the BigQuery integration.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you start to monetize Google Analytics. because it becomes more and more pay to play for the cloud side. So we've been discussing this with a lot of customers, and you must have seen it as well. So we have people now selling strategic exercises to reduce cloud spend, right? So we've been in a place where I remember the wonderful early days where like BigQuery, that was like, oh man, this is basically free. You just send all your data and we do all the querying. It's not going to cost anything until you're above this level. And it's like, oh wow, I'm going to put everything in the cloud. And then now we have, what's the cloudflation? Prices are just going for cloud are going through the roof. So,
it's the classic drug dealer approach, right? You lure them in with the free samples, and then you squeeze up the price. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. So we have the first cases within our client base of people who are looking to start buying steel and put it in the basement again. It's that the outsourcing of hosting is no longer it doesn't no longer contains a positive return on investment.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. Saying, okay, cool. So what are the added services that will keep me in the cloud?
Yeah, I think so. I'm actively Googling because there's a great blog post. So you might know 37 Signals. They are the founders of Basecamp, that project management software, and they always have these contrarian moves in the software world, let's say. And let me actually share.
Yeah.
So they had this post October 19, 2022, where basically they said like, hey, we were in cloud, but it was gonna cost us so much, like, and we did the calculation, and now basically we're gonna spend I don't know how much money, like a lot of money on like hardware, right? And then we expect to earn it back in X amount of years, right? So, and this caused a storm, right, on the internet, because they really know how to do marketing, because they pick these things like, okay, everybody's going to cloud, we're going to be contrarian, and then that's their marketing also. Like they really do this very well, because they've done this with many topics. But yeah, the business case seems to make sense for them. Like they were like, yeah, we know what we need to host our services. We can actually buy these servers pretty cheaply, and like within X amount of years, we're printing money by not being on cloud anymore. So yeah, it's fun to see. You see that over optimization balance out.
Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of good business cases for cloud, but I think it's gone from a no-brainer to a serious brainer. It's something you really have to consider and do the math. And saying in the beginning it was like, duh. It's like, why would you not be on cloud? Because the costs were minimal and the service was maximal, and the stuff you could do with the data from cloud was amazing.
Yeah, but I think
But now you need to,
it ties into like, if you're unsure about your business model, if you don't have like data engineering resources, cloud, or like server engineering resources, if your business model is not proven yet, then cloud makes a lot of sense, because you can spin up so quickly and validate your ID and then scale it to those initial group of users. But then if you are like if you're like a certified business, and you can kind of project like, this year we had this amount of traffic, and next year we're going to have that amount of traffic, and we're going to do A, B, and C, then probably you don't need that super flexibility of cloud, and you probably have like internal resources who can manage those servers, and like maybe the business case for cloud is no longer there. Also because the pricing of cloud is now out of its infancy and towards its more like normal levels, let's say.
Yeah, man, I think it's a really good example of taking a product to mass market in a way where you get the mass market and then starting to capitalize on it. So it's a really interesting and linear business case. And I actually think we see it somewhere else right now. And that's in AI. Because if you look at so the free AI models out there that we can go out and we can use these learning models, and it's not costing us anything, but it's basically just a question of time, right? So what is it? I think ChatGPT, what they came out with $4 billion in a deficit,
Yeah.
right? Sure, they have investor money, but sooner or later somebody has to pay for that, and
Yeah,
who's
the
going to
price
pay
is
for that?
probably going to increase.
You are, Rick. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So right now there's a drive to saying everybody needs to be on AI because it's free and it's powerful and can make shit happen, and it can. It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But it's like if we look down the line, then we really need to say, okay, fine. There's the open AI possibilities now that opens up for us to do a lot of crazy things, but down the line, these crazy things that not necessarily have a business case that is strong enough to compare to the
Yeah.
value, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the situation, sure, and so we invested in something that has a business case because the cost of doing it is low or
Yeah.
free, and then down the line, suddenly, then we have to pay, and then it's like, oh, so it's kind of a
Yeah. Reality
calculation
hits.
to, yeah, exactly. It's like it's business, and it's like, why would anybody give you a large language model for free? Is it
Yeah.
because they believe in the?
I think I think
Does it
it's
make
like
sense? So
yeah, but I think one argument. So let's take Google, right? Because it's the easiest one to work with. So
mhm,
you could like they have so many auxiliary services around it, right? Where you
mhm,
could even argue that them having a base model of Gemini for free could lure in
yeah,
customers that then pay for Google
yeah,
Workspace and Google Cloud and Google, right? Like, so you could use it as like bait, right? For like the rest of your
mhm,
business. But yeah, that's the only
yeah,
like it's the same as like paying with your data for social media, right? Like social media can be free, right? It's free because you pay with your data so they can advertise to you, right? And then AI can
yeah,
be free, but then you're gonna pay in some other way, right? Some other adjacent way.
yeah, yeah. And right now it is free because we have some investors who are paying the bill,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
but a lot of these platforms, they start out with a deficit, and then sooner or later some clever investor says, and they probably already said it, saying, hey, we need to actually make some money on this. If I
yeah,
invested 2 billion as an investor in ChatGPT, then I would expect to get that money back at a certain point. It's not like saying, yeah, you go play with this money, it's fine, I don't care.
yeah. Well, yeah, I do think that um this period, like having that let's call it the free money period, right? Like of a new
Yeah,
technology, of an emerging technology because of venture capital. I do think it spawns like if you see how many individual developers are out there building crazy stuff like experiments on AI, and the only reason they can do it is
yeah,
because right now basically they're being sponsored by venture capital. I think it's very
yeah,
interesting and very valuable to the economy, but the payback, like the feedback loop is larger, right? And it's not a direct feedback loop, it's
yeah,
more like an ecosystem feedback loop, let's say. But yeah,
yeah.
eventually, yeah,
And if you invested,
eventually we have to pay back.
yeah, exactly. And so you go out and you find a sponsor because you say, hey, I can build this amazing AI thing, and you get them to sponsor that, and the business model is it makes sense, but it will
Yeah,
only make sense until the cost of AI increase goes above your earnings,
yeah,
right? So you have this. It's so down the line we will. I really think that if we want to use this strategically, we should look at small language models instead and go and doing the targeted stuff, because the
100%. Yeah,
volumes in the large model is massively costly and overkill in a lot of ways.
yeah, yeah. I think your former colleague and analytics superstar Mark Edmondson is also really trying to make He'll make this happen within his new company Sun Holo. So that's if people are interested in
Yeah,
that, should definitely check out what he's brewing. I think he shares a lot on LinkedIn. I think also on X. So it's definitely interesting to follow on that. So Steen, if we
yeah,
want to
yeah. I think
circle
so.
back on conspiracies, do you have a
Yeah.
conspiracy for me?
Well, probably I'm not sure that it's a conspiracy for you, but it's one of the things that and call it, it pisses me off kind of is the Apple positioning themselves as a privacy-centric company.
Mm,
So making amazing videos about how they protect your data and how they
yeah,
kill the surveillance and all that, because uh, it's well, yeah, I guess you can feel between the lines that I feel. So Apple is one of the Apple is one of the companies that is currently seeing the biggest growth in their marketing revenue because they are shutting everybody out of their infrastructure. So you have to pay to get in to be able
yeah,
to hit the people who are on Apple. So they are expected to have a turnover. I think it was in 2027 of $12 billion on marketing, going from 1 billion in 2020 or something. So it's just this. Okay, so a billion in turnover, that's pretty decent. 12 billion, that is like a massive company. And
yeah,
simply by selling advertisements uh, inside the Apple stack, right?
yeah,
If that makes for me, it's like, and at the same time, keep pushing people saying, no, no, I choose Apple because they protect my privacy. Sure, because they protect it, so they're the only one that has it,
yeah.
right? Because they're not saying they're protecting it from Apple, they're protecting it from everybody else. So I see it maybe in my book that's kind of a conspiracy because it's at least it's to a large degree of false marketing.
I think
You're
I
very
100%
quiet, Rick.
agree. I think I am. I think it's. I'm always super impressed at how they have navigated this and turned it into a USP, while
Yeah,
actually it is. It is well. It's their strategic advantage, right? Like
yeah,
they're really leveraging it. Um,
mm,
I want to share something. So the if you don't know Eric Seufert, you should check him out on LinkedIn. But he has a website called mobiledevmemo.com. And he
yeah,
writes about all these kind of topics. And he also has some great pieces on basically on how Apple is, you know, leveraging
yeah,
this. I'm just gonna quickly share like this. He I hope he won't notice because I pay for his website, and I think this is a paid article, but this is one that I bookmarked that I think was really good. So Apple's private cloud compute and the business of privacy, right? And it's a great read, but
yeah,
like he really emphasizes this, um, you know, how
yeah,
basically all the steps. And if you look back, it's already right. ITP was introduced in 2017, but the limit
yeah,
ad tracking already to 2016. So we're coming close to like let's say 10 years of like this business play of using privacy, and it's it's doing so well, right? So Apple is building a advertising network for the Apple App Store, or not necessarily building, they have it,
yeah,
right? And it's driving serious
yeah,
revenue, right?
yeah,
There's all these things where you're like, hey, wait a second, you protect your users' privacy, and then you build your own, then you leverage what you broke down, then you leverage it to build your own version of it, right?
yeah. Yeah, but and I think so. So if we go 10 years back, everybody was talking about, oh no, the future is gated communities. Uh, and if anything, then Google is the school example of how gated a community can get. That how much they control what happens inside the gate, in the name of
Yeah.
privacy, of course, because we because we need to control what happens in here. So Facebook had not been successful because they've been getting pushback. Google has the antitrust thing going against them now, right?
Yeah.
But Apple is really putting a massive wall around their users in the name of doing good, but at the
Yeah.
same time, uh, getting massively and wonderfully paid for it.
Yeah. So the fun thing is they were the ones that did not have advertising before all of this, right? Like that, well,
Mhm. Yeah,
not nothing.
not anything seriously. Yeah,
Yeah. Right. And then so they positioned themselves in like protecting user privacy and all within their ecosystem, etc. And to be fair, like I am
yeah,
an avid Apple user and I love their products and I feel like it makes sense, right, from a consumer point of view,
yeah,
let's say. But
yeah,
then if you look at the regulation against Meta and Google, which is mainly about how they leverage the data for advertising, and then you look
yeah,
at Apple now building the infrastructure themselves that they were tearing down.
yeah,
Yeah, I wonder how that if I wonder if like they definitely played it well, so kudos to them. And it goes to show like the storytelling value, right? Like even on that level, right? Like how
mm,
valuable branding is and storytelling. uh
yeah. The advertising as well. We both seen this ad with the where they have the flying cameras that monitors you and follows you around. This is the latest one they just sent out, right? That really scares, and it's like Apple is the shield that protects you from that monitoring.
yeah.
Uh, so I think that's a really good example of stealing the narrative and then turning it into something it isn't, because that's not what they're doing. They're just only making sure that their golden cameras can see you,
Yeah.
uh, so they can leverage it. So it they're getting rid of the competition, and that's clever. But it's also not what they say they're doing.
Yeah. So okay, let's 'cause that's where we're at right now. So you and I, we both operate in the business of tracking, right? Collecting data,
Mm,
leveraging it. One view of this market could be that nobody will ever, if you're fully aware and you actually had the choice and you actually understood what you were doing, nobody's going to say I consent to tracking. Would you agree to that
mm.
or no?
Yeah, but I would also, and I think you're right. Well, what one of the scenarios that we see going forward, right, is that a lot of it will be tied to trust, because you will actually have brands that you would like them to track you so they can give you a better experience. So
Yeah.
saying, okay, what would your Spotify playlist look if Spotify didn't look at what you were looking at? Right? Every time you would come in, you would have to decide, no, I'm not interested in anything with banjo. No, I'm not. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear this music from this country. No, I don't want. Every single time you went to Spotify, you would have to set it up again, or
Well,
there
but
would be no recommendations and no preferences.
I'm
So
going to challenge you on that
does that
part.
make sense?
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
going to challenge you on it because I don't think that is what people would call tracking. Like
Okay.
I
But
think
yeah.
I think if you so if you tell people like, hey, do you want me to personalize
Yeah.
Spotify for you to your what you like? people are going to say yes. But then if you ask them,
Okay.
do you want me to share your data with Facebook and Google so we can send you more advertising or better advertising? They're probably going to say no. That's my
Okay, but if you like me, it sounds like you have a paid subscription to Spotify, right?
yes.
So, but if you have a free subscription to Spotify, you will be exposed to ads on Spotify.
Yeah.
Do you think those ads are tied into your behavior on Spotify?
I hope so
Yeah,
for
this is just
Spotify.
going saying what?
I
Yeah,
hope so for
yeah,
Spotify.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So otherwise they would be really stupid. So
Yeah.
so so one thing is I pay not to have this experience. I just want the personalized experience. But still, the other people say I do not necessarily. I uh, I don't feel violated by them giving me recommendations and offers because they give me something back. So
Yeah.
it's a transactional thing.
Yeah. Well,
It's just giving you pushback on the pushback.
yeah. No, and I agree. Like I think then we also touch on the meta pay or okay thing, right? Like
Yeah,
can you basically state it as bluntly as either you pay us per month to use the service, then we don't advertise to you, etc., or you pay with your data. I feel
yeah,
we're going through this reconciliation period where the insiders always knew you paid with your data, and now we have to explicitly tell everybody that that's the case, and it's a little bit of a harsh
mm,
reality for people to accept.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think so. So what the future hold when I look down the line, right? I say we're gonna have what's the 10, the 20s, and the 70s. Then will be the companies that you trust with your data because you see an upside. It's somebody you have a relationship where you trust that they will not violate your data. Um, and that is your strong relationship. Then there's the gray zone. That's companies that you trust with some of your data, but definitely not all of it. That can do some leveraging in relation to data, but you don't really feel comfortable about them because you don't know them well enough. And then there's the 70 saying, hell no, Forbes, I'm not going to let you share my data with your 742 partners because that is over the top. So I would rather say no and then not share than because you apparently do not understand
Yeah.
that it's my data.
Yeah.
Right? So you will have to. So it will mean that your universe will also be centered, boiled down around fewer websites that you trust. So we will be less explorative because there will also be more Russian hacker, scammer, spammer, badass websites out there because they're so easy and fast to move. So you will shorten your circle, and the infinite web will be known as Rick's bubble, right? For you,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, but you will not risk doing the. It's like, hey, Rick, want to take a picnic in the dark web? There's a, then it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, maybe not, Steen. I'll just sit here and stay on the light side.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so like it's such a complex topic because there's so many downstream effects of like if you just recently there was somebody in I think it was Derek in Measure Slack, and he was like, hey, how does this IAB TCF thing work? And we were talking about it, and it's like, indeed, if you go to a publisher right now and it says like, do you want to share do you want to share your data with our 700 partners, right, in the TCF string?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any
Mm,
sense to do that. Like, no, like, you don't understand who are these 700 partners, right? Like, but it is currently how the web functions, because it allows that publisher to then auction your visit and earn money,
yeah.
which allows them to pay their
Mm,
writers to pay them to write the content that you want to read on that website, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're I think it is very likely that we're going to move away from consent banners, like to do consent per website, because it makes way more sense to have
Mhm.
that in the browser. But then people are just going to opt out in the browser. Like you're going to opt out to everything
Yeah.
in the browser. Then those
Yeah,
websites
but so
will cease to exist, right?
yeah, either that or specific websites will have something saying, yeah, it's like when you go to some of the American websites today when they say, sorry, we're not serving you because you don't want you don't you're outside our market or you're inside the EU or something, right? So
Yeah.
you get this pushback from the businesses because they're like, hey, our business is our business. So if you wanna enjoy the benefits, then you have to pay. And right now you're paying by not paying, but you're paying by us being able to track you. If you don't want us to track you, then there's
Yeah.
no business. It's like going to a restaurant and say, hey guys, uh, bad example, but I don't have any money. Will you serve me anyway? Like, okay, what can you do?
Yeah.
So I can dance and sing. Well, no, not really. We don't need that.
I
So
I would let you I
but
would
I
let you eat
agree,
here
and that,
if you dance and sing. You can eat with me if you dance and
yeah, I
sing.
know. But I get that a lot. If I just dance and sing, I remember being at a party where they there was a free shots to everybody if I put on a Hawaiian shirt.
Ah, yes, we did that,
Oh yeah,
huh?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so that's
Well,
kind of a dancing and singing, right?
and one thing I think one outcome could be that the websites that rely on that business model might not, like, maybe people just don't find it valuable enough once they realize what they
Mhm.
actually paying with their data, that yes, that business model might have to cease to exist, right? That's also a potential outcome, but
Yeah,
it always feels a little bit like, destruction of business models or destruction of businesses doesn't feel good, right? I'd rather add new
no,
businesses than to destruct old ones. But maybe the realization of, hey, data is valuable, and we should treat it as such. Maybe, yeah, that
yeah,
will have consequences, right?
yeah, but because you can say basically, okay, if we what will be the business models of the companies that do not have a business model of marketing, right? So this is just a reflection saying, cool, yeah, you want to go to my website, you don't want me to see you, you don't want me to know anything about you. You put in an ad blocker, so you're not going to see my ads. So you killed any value you could potentially have for me, but you still want my product for free. Well, I can't do that, so I have to shut down. So you go to another website saying, hey, I have a bit other business model. But what the hell is that? Then it's sure you can come in and read my content, but you have to pay. Right? Because so as a business, it's there needs to be some sort of revenue to keep the business going, unless you are run by a humanitarian organization and
Yeah.
sponsors and other friendly people.
Well, and maybe
But
we're
that's a
already
business
seeing
model as
that.
well.
Maybe we're already seeing this a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Because if you look at, and I don't know how successful they are, but if you look at Medium and Substack, etc., you kind of see
Mhm.
the old traditional publishing businesses that would rely on the IAB TCF to implement 700 bidding partners, right? They all, like the good
Yeah.
journalists, they start their own Substack or their own Medium, and they ask you to pay a small amount if you want to
Mhm.
read their stuff, and then there's no ads, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if there's no tracking or no ads, but at
Yeah.
least it could be without ads because you just pay for access, right? So that's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same, like it's still content delivery to people, but then the business model has flipped and it doesn't rely on the paying with personal data.
Yeah. But so imagine that you would only have access to website you pay for. or saying, so coming in, we've done these prediction models as well. We can basically see now if what's the likelihood of a visitor buying when they arrive at a website. We don't need the personal data, just looking at the signal on how they tackle the website. Then just saying, hey, Rick, you've seen 4 products. Now we're shutting down your feed because you're not in the market to buy. So you're just costing us money. I can see you're never going to buy. So
Our cloud costs are going
we'll
up.
just redirect you.
You're only
Yeah,
browsing.
exactly. We can't afford. Yeah, we can't afford to pay you for just browsing on our products. That costs money. It's like showing you that picture. That's 7 cents or whatever, right? So what is the alternative? Then they would be like, yeah, so you would pay with your internet access. So every month you would put in €100 into account, and then it would start paying the website you were visiting. So like, so sorry, Rick, you run out of page views. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's still a payment somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, but hell, you could make a career out of surfing public websites.
Yeah.
Financed by the public sector that you pay for through your taxes or other people's taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a reflection of saying, what's the next step behind this? Because if there's no marketing as a business model, and maybe and most likely, hopefully, it's just me having a limited perception of the world. But I'm really wishing I could see what are the sustainable business models where you could go to your friendly VC and say, hey, I have an idea for a website that has a business model where they would say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Because what is the business model?
Yeah. No, I think like in the end, there needs to be an economic value, and like if I'm thinking about my own like media consumption, and to be fair, I am increasingly paying for more and more. Like more and more of the content I consume is from behind paid gateways, and I have to admit, when I was younger, I definitely used the Pirate Bay and stuff, right? So, but I definitely value like the things I value, I pay for. But it's also like a position of privilege, right? To be able to pay for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's
It
also
also
a good
places
filter
you
of,
in the yeah. No,
well, it's also a
it also
filter, like a
places you in the
filter issue. We're lagging, Steen.
We are lacking. Okay, fine. So Rick, go.
I said, well, I'm thinking about my own consumption, and I use the payment also as a quality filter, right? So I decide to pay for certain sources, and therefore I decide that those are my sources of information, which kind of it helps me block out the rest. Let's say it basically, I've decided this is my source of information. Like I have one Dutch news outlet that I subscribe to, and then like I have some industry things that I subscribe to, and then basically they help me decide like I'm not going to read the other stuff because I've already decided to pay for this stuff, so that's my filter. Let's say.
But it also, this then puts you into the privileged upper class of online denizens, right? Because you can afford to pay for this stuff, and there will be people out there saying, hey, yeah, okay, cool. So I need to decide whether I'm going to invest in these sites to get the information, or if I'm going to go free. Because the challenge with free is then it becomes potentially, I'm not saying, but it becomes the breeding ground of fake news and crap like X is right now, right? So you can enjoy X for free.
Yeah.
But will it increase the value of your life? Yeah.
I think you could say the reverse, right? I think if you're paying for it, by definition, you're kind of filtering out the non-quality, because that would
Yeah,
mean people stop paying for it and it would implode on itself, right? So by paying for it, you kind of make sure that what you're consuming at least has a certain level of quality, or that's your assumption based on
yeah,
the group of people paying for it is large enough to filter that out.
yeah, yeah. But then you also live use CNN as well to kind of have the opposite, to get the opposite story. Stories do you get in so because technically you are building Rick's bubble already, right?
Yeah,
So
100%.
you are getting you're getting reinforced in your belief of the world
Yeah.
to the extent on so there was this wonderful model image in relations to the bias of the AI models, because the language models also are biased in relations to their view of the world. See, I think the Facebook one was the most right leaning, and open from a European perspective, from an American perspective, that their interpretation when you ask a question would skewer the answers in certain directions.
Yeah.
But so just as a business, are you going in as a left-leaning company and utilizing a language model? Because that reinforce your business decision direction. But it's another complication on top. But it's still this: what is the filter that we get on reality in relation to what is accessible? I know, honestly, during the Trump years, I had a tendency to sometimes, not on a regular basis, but sometimes I would go to Fox News to try to understand how the hell this could work in the real world, because I thought it was strange. And the media I consumed, it was just one big joke. So I needed to try to understand what is the other side thinking? What is the logic? What is the rationale that makes this make sense?
Yeah.
But if I have to pay for to get the other opinion,
That's a very good point. Yeah. I do think on that Trump note, for me, that has been one of the that really made me realize the painting of pictures at both sides.
mm,
Because indeed, if you look at left-leaning media outlets and how they picture Trump and everything around it, then you truly can't
yeah,
imagine anybody voting for him ever. Right? You really, like, even the most right-leaning people, you would be like, yeah, you sure, you are right-leaning, you might not like Democrats, but he seems like a clown. You're not voting for a clown, right? But then if you look at the if you look at the other side, and how they frame the picture, it's totally different, and that's it's really insightful to see those two side by side, indeed. Like, and yeah, if you only pay for your own left leaning or right leaning media outlet, then that's definitely going to influence your view of the world.
yeah. So and I think that's kind of the challenge by not having this marketing oriented business model. Uh, and I'm not blessing it. I'm not saying it's the only one, but it's just the challenge is that we will probably get more and more the echo chamber effect, that we will get even more reinforced in our own opinions. It's like, go to Truth Social and try to be a socialist. See how long you survive before you're killed by trolls,
Yeah.
right? So you have this challenge in relations to it, that the echo chambers are already being built, but if and you need to pay to be there, and it's like it's a business model to finance the next campaign, and so entrenching people is not what opens the dialogue. And marketing might be manipulation on one level, but if it's finances, I can get the other guy's opinion,
Yeah.
it might be okay.
Yeah. Steen, I want to switch to
So
one
the,
more
don't
conspiracy
quote me on
theory.
this. I know we're almost finished. It just yeah. No, I'm just saying. I think this is so. Uh, this is gonna get your attention. You can use it in the quote saying, "This is how marketing supports democracy."
We're we are
So,
enhancing our influence in the
yeah,
world. I wanna share one more.
exactly. Yeah, by
I want to
opening
share
our
my screen for one more conspiracy theory with you,
hmm?
and with the people. So you should be able to see my screen. So first of all,
Hmm?
if you like conspiracy theories in the digital space, you should go to Twitter and follow this guy, Jason Kint. Um, Always very insightful things. And what he
Yep.
usually does is he dives deep into the all the lawsuits that are, like there are a trillion lawsuits against big tech, and then within those lawsuits there's all these documents that get, submitted
Hmm.
for the lawsuits, and nobody obviously reads them because it's like way too much things to read, and he actually reads them because that's kind of his business model, I would say, right now. um, and he always digs up these
Yeah.
things. So this is from the Google antitrust lawsuit, the recent one. And yeah, it's a super
Hmm.
interesting thread. I'm just gonna highlight a couple that stood out to me. So this is from like 2016, 2017, and Google had this project called Narnia or Narmia, I don't remember, Narnia 2.0.
Hmm.
Um, and they were already mentioning the likelihood of opt-out rate and how they have to prevent that or work towards that. Um,
Yeah.
they Let me actually see, where was the yeah. So here they mentioned like their competitive analysis. So they were mentioning, right, like how ad blockers uh, are like basically a threat to their business model, right, to the identification of users, right, and how they uh,
Hmm.
how they have to prevent that from happening, let's say. And this is all like internal Google documents, strategic documents on how they handle projects. What their goal is. Their goal is to basically increase the amount of opted-in users to the famous Google ad account opt-in. Um, get them opted in Chrome.
Hmm.
Use the Chrome synchronization across devices. So it's a very interesting read. I'm gonna do, if you want to see it, I'm gonna retweet it now. So it's on my Twitter. It's just at Rick Dronkers. Uh, but yeah, if you like conspiracy theories, and
That would
this
be
is not
super
so much a
interesting.
theory, right? Because this is just all
Yeah.
documents that are out there. This is a really interesting one to go through. Now, keep in mind, all these documents are very, like, they're already, some are like 10 years old already, right? But it's super interesting to
Hmm.
skim through and to see the way they think about things.
But I think one of the things about conspiracy theory is that you kind of to have that reflection as well. This is his selection of documents that supports his narrative. So if
100%.
he finds
Yeah.
7 documents where there 10 documents that goes in another direction, they won't necessarily be picked to stand out. And it could be like, yeah, okay, cool. These are the loony internal documents for the guy who got from the intern who got fired after 7 days because he was really over the top.
Well,
So I believe that what he's doing is serious, but you still have this saying that a curation of news or curation of content in any way is a presentation of reality from your
100%.
perspective, and
And
that goes for data, that goes for marketing or news or
and
anything, right?
even the original documents, right? Because those documents are internal documents by Google executives, and their goal is obviously to make Google as successful as possible. So the fact, like, they will write from a we need to win this war mentality, which doesn't necessarily mean like we want to
Yeah,
we don't want to abide the law, but they're internally thinking about what can we do strategically to make Google a successful business in the future, which obviously means they want to know more about their
yeah.
users so they can do better advertising, right? So that's not a weird position to have if you're a Google
Mm.
executive. It actually makes total sense, but it's definitely a nice
No, no,
look
no. That's it.
inside the kitchen, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, man, and it pays the bill for them, right? And so basically, that's what they need to do to be an ongoing business down the line and keep staying relevant and being there. So I
Yeah.
think it's back to the business model, saying we have a business model that means that that we can pay your salary tomorrow. If we want to do all good and only do good, then we shut Google down, and then people can no longer do Google searches, and all the people who build on Google searches can no longer use that. And then so you kind of get this the challenge of yeah of ongoing businesses that builds on other ongoing businesses.
Yeah. 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 Steen, I want to wrap it up with you. Now I want to mention to people you have an amazing website, and I have this love for short URLs, so that's why I have like the dtv.show that you can see here, right? I like it, but you actually have
Yeah,
Steen.fyi, which I like very much.
yeah. So
Uh,
it's kind of the site I built to position myself as a speaker. So there's a lot of content that gets aggregated there, but most stuff happens on my LinkedIn profile. So
yeah,
um, the LinkedIn profile is the sexy place because I also do
LinkedIn,
Medium and I have a YouTube. I'm compiling all my presentations and stuff, but
exactly.
but I do like
So
the Steen.fyi because it was such a simple message.
exactly, I like it. I like it. So Steen.fyi, and that also links to your LinkedIn, and then obviously the
Yes.
company website is also linked there. Um, so if people want to,
Yeah.
if people have additional conspiracies for us, like for episode 2, they can just comment wherever we have broadcasted this, and then we will probably respond, and we will we, we will brainstorm for a follow up.
We will. Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was fun, and I think it was interesting sharing as always. So I think this is the time where what we should have probably said in the beginning. This is only our opinion and ideas, and we have said nothing that is substantiated by facts. This is
Yeah,
has been an anti-data session where we kind of just uh, talked about what was on our minds and what could be reality and what could be a challenge.
exactly. And
So
to
please
all
don't
the
sue
people
us.
that you tagged in your LinkedIn post that were scared you were going to talk about them, thank you for watching. We didn't talk about you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about them next time. Yeah,
Oh yeah, next episode. Yeah, keep them
cool.
engaged. Good one.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
I'm gonna stop the live
Good.
stream. Bye bye.